everyone, and welcome back to the Chatty Podcast with me, T. Before this week's video gets started, I just want to say, if you're watching it, I'm really sorry. I didn't realise as I was filming, but the camera starts to tilt down further and further down as you get more and more into the video, so I apologise for that. Also, the sound isn't great. I don't have my headphones at the moment, and so there's like a weird hum. I think it's the microphone. I need a new microphone, really. I need to invest in this little business. And there was one more thing. I think it's quite dark, the lighting, but I will try and fix that as much as I can in the editing. So sorry about all those technical difficulties, but I hope you enjoy the content of the episode. And yes, love you all. Enjoy the episode. Bye. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Chatty Podcast with me, T. I hope you're all doing really well and have had a lovely week. There was no episode last week because I was ill again. I know, horrendous. But we're better now, and I tried to record a podcast, but I just kept sneezing and sniffling, and then it was making me annoyed, and then that energy was just coming through the podcast, and I was just thinking, Sienna, do you know what? Let's just save it. Let's just save the vibes, let's save the energy, let's save the topic for when you're feeling better. And here we are, we're better. So we're gonna do what I had planned for last week, this week. I just want to say quickly is that I'm really proud of myself because I was ill and I still kept to my workout schedule. Apart from Wednesday I really didn't feel good, so I just had I went and had a steam and a sauna and a recovery day. But yeah, I powered through. I did my workouts. I set a PB 10k time, which was like 54 minutes 40 seconds, something like that. So I was really happy with that, and yes, here's to powering through. And also, I know some of my friends are doing 75 soft, which if you haven't heard of it, it's like 75 hard, which is a challenge that is hard. But yeah, I think you have to do like 2 workouts a day. One has to be outside, you have to read a certain amount, drink a certain amount of water, blah blah blah. But my friends are doing 75 soft, which is like a slightly easier version and a bit easier with their working girl, corporate girly lifestyle. But yes, I know a lot of people are doing challenges like that this January, and I just want to say well done if you've started doing that, and however it's going, well done, keep it up. And if you've had a bad day, it's just a bad day, it's not a bad week, so you can turn it around. And yeah, look at me being Mr. Motivator these days. Who would have thought it? Not me. It's really funny because I was joking to my boyfriend the other day because he was like massaging my legs because they were in so much pain, and I was like joking around. I was like, I'm an athlete. And he was like, yeah, you are. Obviously, just come. We're both joking here. I'm not an athlete, but we were just laughing at how far I've come in the workout journey because I used to hate it. I used to hate the gym so much. And not to bang on about it again because I know I spoke about it in the last episode, but I love it. So I want everyone else to go through this experience with me. Moving on from the gym, no one cares. I don't really have any stories of the week. Honestly, my biggest story of the week was my 10k PB. I did do it on a treadmill though, and I feel like that's important to point out because running on a treadmill and running outside are very different things. My outside 10k PB is like 56 minutes. Well, I haven't tried to beat it in a couple of weeks now, so maybe it has gone down. But yeah. What else is new with me? Any funny stories? Not really. Oh, I did witness a hit and run. I've actually forgotten about this completely. I haven't actually told anyone about this. I forgot about it. So I went to go see my cousin Tafara. Shout out. I went to go see my cousin Tafara, and I was like walking to hers, and there was a car. I won't say where. I was in London. But there was a traffic light, and I was like crossing the road, and no cars are moving. Everyone's still, and there's 2 cars, like one behind the other, obviously, at the traffic light, duh. And the one behind it just drove into the back of the car in front, and like it was a big bang noise. Anyway, so the car in front, when the light goes green, it like pulls to the side, obviously thinking the van behind him is going to pull to the side, and they're like going to do the whole, awkward car insurance, swap the number plates, blah blah blah. But the van that hit the car just drives off. It just drives off, and then the car that's pulled to the side that's been hit chases after him. Anyway, that was the story of the week. Nothing really about me. I have no input apart from the fact I was in shock and enjoyed watching the little chase that happened. I don't know if he caught him or not, but I was thinking in that situation I'd be hardcore trying to memorise that number plate. Or if I had someone in the passenger seat, I'd be like, get the number plate. But then I feel like the person in the passenger seat would be really under pressure and not be able to get their phone camera out quick enough. These are the things I think about. Another funny thing. Okay, so see, look, once I start, they all just come flowing. Another funny thing that happened this week was I was watching House with my boyfriend, which I spoke about before. We're still watching House. It's 8 seasons long, so we're still watching it. But we were watching House, and my boyfriend said that one of the guys in it looks a bit like a beaver. Like, his face just looked a bit like a beaver. Not to be mean. But I said to him, do you, like, categorise people's faces in your head? Because I do that. Like, in my head, every time I meet someone, they, like, get put in a category in my brain of, like, the kind of face they have. And I don't know if this is normal. I don't think it's normal. My boyfriend said no. But, example. Some people, I think, look like reptiles. And I'm not being mean. You can still be an attractive person. It's just your facial structure in my head. This is the category it puts you. Some people look like reptiles. Some people look, I think, a bit like, it's so mean, look a bit like rats or like rodents. Again, I'm not trying to be mean. This is just how my brain works. Then some people, I think, have quite long faces and they get put in like a long face category. Then you meet some people whose eyes are like really far apart from each other. They get put in that category. There's loads. There's like literally millions of categories in my brain. Not millions, but there's like a good couple of categories in my brain. Of like the thing, I think people, because everyone looks different, right? But I do think you can sort of group people roughly into different groups of what they look like. And there's people of all different ethnicities and genders in each category. But I do sort of do that in my head, and it's not a conscious thing. It's just like in my head I'll be like, oh yeah, they kind of look like these kind of people. Interesting. Am I going to be cancelled for that? I hope not. But if you do the same thing, please let me know, because someone else has got to do that. I can't be the only person that does that. Another thing I want to talk about is, obviously I got into the second stage of this Warner Brothers internship. Everyone's coming along the ride with me. And they said on this next stage, put any links to online work you've got. So I put my podcast, but now I'm like, oh no. I hope it's all right. Like, I hope they like my podcast. And also, I was like, I talk about going raving and things, which is probably like not very corporate, but everyone's allowed a life, like, I think it's character developing. If you're watching Warner Brothers, hi, I'm Taylor. I'd be an absolutely great applicant. Please hire me. It means the world. I actually can't even sleep at the moment because every time I think about this application, it gives me anxiety and I'm like, oh my God, I just want it so badly. So pray for me, everyone. I said to my boyfriend, I said, can you pray for me, please? And he was like, no, because I believe in your abilities. Cute. But yeah, so now I'm like second guessing all the content I'm putting out, because I also put the link to my podcast TikTok. And then in university, we had to write like these academic blog posts under a pseudonym, and I put a link to them because I thought that's like an example of my writing, because it's like a journalism internship, and I obviously want to be a presenter, broadcast journalist, and I just love research, and like I loved my dissertation so much. Everyone knows that. All I do is bang on about how much I love my dissertation, but I love looking into things, and it would just be great opportunities for me. So that's one thing I'm really nervous about at the moment. So yeah, that was that. Anyway, long intro aside, everyone, this week we are going to be talking about influential television characters on my personality. Just in case anyone from Warner Brothers is watching this, it's not for them, it's really not for them. They don't want to hear that I'm like, was influenced by Tracy Beaker as a child. But no, this is the topic of the week. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy. Yeah, so let's start off with Tracy Beaker. Tracy Beaker is the first television character that I think had a very big influence on my personality. Purely because I just thought she was so cool. Like, I really looked up to her. Because I was really shy when I was little, like really young. I was actually really shy. Like, I remember hiding behind my mum's leg when she'd introduce me to people, and my whole family will tell you that I used to cry when people laughed at me when I was like doing something cute. Like, you know, when a kid does something cute and everyone laughs, and I would cry and I'd be like, don't laugh at me, or I used to say, don't look at me. Like, I was really shy when I was really, really young. And Tracy Beaker was a character that was like the opposite of shy, and she was very outspoken and unapologetic, and she shouted a lot. And I definitely think watching Tracy Beaker really inspired me to stop being so shy, because I'm the opposite of shy now. I can talk to anyone. But yeah, she definitely inspired me to come out of my shell. Although we did go on a journey with learning how to navigate my newfound confidence, which we will go into. But I have kind of a funny story about my influence of Tracy Beaker, because Tracy Beaker obviously said bog off like all the time. And she stuck up for herself against anyone, adults, other kids. And I thought that was really cool. So one day, I live in like a little estate area. And when I was younger, all of the kids, we were all about the same age, give or take like 1 or 2 years. And, you know, as kids do, we would all play outside together, and we all were all kind of friends. But we also got into loads and loads of arguments. Now, behind our houses was like a big field that we would play in, and we would like make little hideaways and climb trees, and very outdoorsy activities, but it was really fun. But one day we were all down the field, and my like best friend out of all of these people was a girl, let's call her Susie for the purposes of this video. Yeah, so me and Susie were like best friends, but one day we got into an argument, and there was a big branch on the floor that had like been cut off a tree or whatever, but it was really big. Like, for our age, we must have been about, I want to say like 10, maybe 9 or 10 years old. And for a 9 or 10-year-old, this branch was really big. Like, it was a big branch. Probably now I wouldn't view it as so big, but it was at the time. Anyway, Susie, we're arguing. She picks up the branch from the floor, and like, she's a long way away from me because the branch is quite big. And she hits me with this branch, like, on my leg. I remember having a massive bruise and cut on my leg from this branch. And again, I was a really shy child. I never swore. I did not swear at all when I was younger. Swearing is not allowed in my household. So, like, I was in shock. And all these kids used to swear. So I was, like, in shock that I'd just been hit by this branch. Anyway, I don't quite remember how this then happened, but her dad then came down the field and started having a go at me for antagonizing his daughter and arguing with his daughter. And I was like, she just hit me with a branch. Anyway, I then shouted at this adult man. I had a go at him for having a go at me because his daughter just assaulted me, basically. And I told him to shut up. Yeah, I said, shut up. Your daughter's the one that hit me, blah, 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 blah. And then he went and told my parents that I told him to shut up, and my parents knew me very well, and they were like, yeah, go Tiela, like, she should have told you to shut up, like, she's literally got the biggest bruise ever on her leg from your daughter. Childhood beef. The antics of a 9 and 10-year-old. And she was a year older than me, so I must have been 9, she must have been about 10. But yeah, my parents really stuck up for me, and they were like, yeah, Taylor, you did the right thing. Like, just because he was an adult doesn't mean he was in the right. And I think that really spurred me on to stop being so shy and stand up for myself and come out of my shell. I say I was really shy though. I was shy in front of strangers, I think, because I think I always have had this like confidence and the want to stand up for myself since I was younger. I've always been like outspoken, I suppose, um, with people I'm comfortable with. But I remember like in primary school, I was in a little trio friendship group, and we all know trio female friendships can be tricky because someone's always left out. Anyway, I was in a little disagreement with these girls, and I went home to my dad, and my dad said, Sheila, I just don't talk to them anymore. And we are in like primary school at this point, so we're probably like 6. Anyway, I go up to this girl that I was friends with, and I said to her the next day, my daddy said that I shouldn't talk to you anymore. And it was like in the morning when the parents were all still there, and they were like dropping us off, and my mum was there. And my mum just always tells me she just stood there and was like horrified that I just walked up to this girl and said that. But go me, you know. I I was honest. I was honest. And I think that's one thing that I still am. I am very honest. But I like it makes me laugh when I reflect on all these moments and see how much I've grown, because one thing I learned, especially like in my placement year of university, is that I've always been a really confident and outspoken sort of person, but there's like a quiet confidence that I adopt now where I don't need to be the loudest person in the room. I know that when I do speak, I have confidence in my opinions and I can explain them, but I don't need to shout them, you know? And I think learning how to mold your outspokenness and your confidence, because I don't think it's a bad thing to have these qualities and these traits, but I think learning how to mold them and use them to be enhanced rather than to people for people to think that you're rude, because you're not. You're just opinionated, and slightly sometimes when you're a bit of a louder person, people can um, perceive that negatively, especially as a girl. I think um, the boys that were loud in class were just sort of like, oh, the class clowns, and they have a bit more of a jovial projection of their outspokenness, whereas I think when girls can be more outspoken, they come across as being a bit of a bitch. So yeah, that's one thing I've learned getting older, but as I said before, it's really interesting and nice to like look back on what I used to be like and how I've grown as a little woman. But yeah, that is how Tracy Beaker influenced me. She's the first one. Another one character that's really influenced my life, my little personality of mine, was Matilda. I think because to me, Matilda was just the coolest girl ever. Like, she walked herself to the library and she taught herself how to get to the library, and she was so smart, and like to me that smartness was really cool. Like, her intelligence was cool and I wanted to be that smart. And when I was younger, I wasn't like, things clicked for me a bit later, I think, than some kids. And I remember being really upset to my dad and being like, I have the best parents ever, I just want to say, like, they are so supportive and I love them to pieces. But yeah, I remember crying to my dad and saying like, Dad, I'm at the bottom. Like, I was in the group that had to get taken out of class to go and learn extra things because I was a bit behind. And I remember crying to my dad and being like, I'm just not smart enough. And he was like, Taylor, like, everyone learns at their own pace. Like, you will get it eventually. Like, don't worry, just don't give up. And he was right, because I went from being like in primary school like bottom to, by the time I was in year 6 at primary school, I did like really quite well in English. And I sort of learned that English was like my subject that I enjoyed, and I always loved reading. So yeah, then I sort of went into secondary school like middle, like not bottom but not top set. I was like middle. And then as I went up through secondary school, I sort of went from being like bottom at mid of my class to like top of my class in certain subjects. And by the time I was like in A levels, like I left my A levels with AAB, which is, you know, really good for A levels as well. And then I've left university now with a first class degree, so it really did, everything just clicked for me a bit later. But go back to Matilda. I think for me, I didn't give up and I persevered with all that learning because I valued it and I saw it as something that was cool and important. And um, there's nothing that annoys me more than girls. Sometimes, you know, when, you know, like the pick me girls, pretend to be stupid in front of boys. It annoys the hell out of me. I think, why are you doing that? They like put on this like ditzy little persona. And I think that's not cool. I don't think it's attractive. And I hope boys don't find that attractive. I hope they don't. I don't know if they do, but I hope they don't find that attractive. Um, and I've never understood that. I've always really valued intelligence and I think it's cool. I think it's cool when you're smart and you can say things about loads of different areas and you know how, you know, you're confident in your writing abilities, your communication abilities, and I think intelligence is something to really be valued. And I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the world, absolutely not. But I value um knowledge and people who've worked really hard to obtain it. And even if you're not a school person, because school really isn't for everyone, but are like experts in their field, whatever it is, whether that's sport or nutrition or like my sister's a hairdresser, she's amazing at what she does, she is like the best at what she does. That's so cool, like you've put your energy into gaining more knowledge in your area of life and all these things. So yes, Matilda definitely taught me to value intelligence, and I think that definitely inspired me and my little personality because I tried really hard um, to learn things, even though it wasn't very easy for me. Um, yeah, and somehow I don't honestly, everything did just click a lot later because somehow then in school I didn't have to try so hard one day. It sort of things just made sense, um, which was cool. But also like Matilda read so much and she went to the library all the time, and my mum always said like all you need to do, my mum still says this now, all you need to do with your kids is take them to the library and take them swimming. Which is what she did with me. Every weekend we went swimming and we went to the library. Um, my mum comes from Finland, so swimming is very important there. Um, I've just got really fond memories of reading, and I remember my mum is from Finland, so English is her second language, and my dad is really dyslexic, so reading doesn't come very easily to him. But my mum would read me stories when I'd go to bed. But as I got a bit older, I remember do you remember the books of like Bella the Birthday Fairy and all those? I used to read them to my mum to go to sleep. Like when it was bedtime, I would read to my mum. And she would fall asleep sometimes, and I'd finish the book and then realise my mum was asleep, and then I'd have to wake my mum up and tell her to go to bed, and then I would go to bed after reading my mum a book. And then my dad, who is amazing, is really heavily dyslexic, but one of the most creative people I have ever known, and he would make me up a story every night when I was younger, and that really helped, like, spurred on my creativity. Um, but yeah, that I link that all that really to Matilda because of uh the like thirst for knowledge that she had, and then all her superpowers was just so cool. Um, along with her intelligence. So Matilda was a really cool and influential character for me as well growing up. So Tracy, Vika, and Matilda are like the characters that helped shape me when I was like really young, like primary school into early secondary school. Um, But moving up on to being a little bit older, Miranda Hart definitely is another character I would choose if I had to pick one that helped shape my development growing up. When I was in secondary school, I used to have this friend, let's call her Katie. um, yeah, I used to have this friend in secondary school called Katie. We're not friends anymore, but we were close in secondary school. And we used to say that we were like Miranda and Stevie, uh, like from Miranda, the show Miranda, obviously. And I really resonated with Miranda because she was you know, she was a bit out of place. She was like larger than everyone else, and she says she always talks about how she had to shop in Big and Long, and I was so tall. I'm tall now. Well, I'm 5'7", that's quite average. Well, it's above average, my boyfriend will tell you. Um, but yeah, I was so much taller than all my friends in secondary school, and in early secondary school, before the boys had the growth spurt, I was taller than the boys. Um, and all my friends, it's the same now, like with my home friends, like they're all like 5'2", and I'm 5'7", so you know, I felt just really large and out of place, and I was a bit of a chubby kid in secondary school until I was like maybe 16, 15, 16. I sort of lost the bubba fat, but I was really quite chubby, so I was like chubby and taller than everyone else, and I just felt ginormous. Like I just felt so out of place, and all I wanted was to be those tiny little skinny little girls that were short and cute and all the boys fancied. And that there honestly, it was really difficult for me in that bit of secondary school because I was just not like that. And now I love my height. Um and I feel bad for little T who felt like that. But Miranda was such a funny character because she was like that and she struggled with that too, but she was so funny, and she like developed this funniness uh as like a coping mechanism. Well, no, I think she did, maybe the character did, but I like sort of learnt that from her, and I just developed my personality to be funny as a defense of me feeling so out of place. Um, and me and my friend, I used to say we were like Stevie and Miranda because Stevie was very like strict and on it, and Miranda was very like woo, which was sort of a bit like us too. And we used to go around saying all their little quotes like such fun, and it was just a funny little friendship we had because what did I say was called? Katie was really small, and she was one of those. She was small and blonde and beautiful, and everyone loved her. And I was just the frumpy bigger friend. And that's probably not how other people saw us, but that's how it felt at the time. But the character of Miranda taught me to, and at the end, Miranda gets with Gary, the guy she fancies, and he like loves her for her, and it definitely taught me to like accept my largeness, even that just being my height, but also made me develop a sort of funny, like I try to be funny. I don't think I'm not saying that I think I'm funny. I hope I am. I do think I can be funny, but I wouldn't say I'm like the funniest person. But being called funny is my favourite compliment when people call me funny, and I definitely think I got that from Miranda. Miranda's so good. I still watch that back sometimes. But yeah, that's a character that I definitely learnt some, in a way, a confidence about an insecurity of mine. Like I had developed a confidence about my height. Like there's nothing you can do about height, so you know, might as well embrace it. But also forced me to develop like a sort of coping mechanism of feeling so insecure about being different from everyone else. But yeah, that is another character that I think influenced me and my little character development, my personal character development. But yes, and then the next character that influenced me, I think, was Karen Brockman from Outnumbered. And they've just made like they made the Christmas like another just one-off like Christmas special episode. But Karen Brockman was another little girl who was very outspoken and loud and opinionated and didn't understand why the world was the way it was, and she questioned everything, and I loved her because I related to her. But also, Karen Brockman is a character that I think was so needed in our television landscape because she was a presentation of an outspoken girl, that was really positive. And like going back to what I said before, I think sometimes as a girl, being outspoken is seen really negatively. And although people struggled to deal with Karen, she was again unapologetically herself, and I think that all of these characters have that in common. And I think that's something that really valued and I've really gravitated towards, um, as I've picked out characters that have been memorable to me in my lifetime. Um, but yeah, and I think what's so cool about the character of Karen is obviously that Outnumbered went on for a good few seasons and years, and you watch her grow up. And, like, the biggest thing for me, watching like the story of Karen, is when she goes to secondary school, she is really outspoken and, you know, unapologetically herself, but she's really toying with this line of it being rude and a negative thing. And she doesn't have any friends because of it, and no one understands her, but she's like arrogant. She has like this arrogance about her in, I think it's like one of the last seasons when she starts secondary school. But she has a chat with her head teacher, and her head teacher just humbles her. She sits her down and she's like, "This is real life. The world doesn't owe you anything, and you need to change because the world's not going to." And she does. Like, she really listens to that, and she hears it, and she is nicer to people, and she's still opinionated and has opinions, but she uses it in like a more positive way. I think it was a really important visual for me to see, um with Karen, this like development in her character and her evolved confidence in her opinions and who she is, but then her toy with this line of like confidence and arrogance, and her really be like humbled and brought back down to earth. And I think it's a really important lesson to learn that, you know, the world doesn't owe you anything. You're in the world, and it's your responsibility to make something of yourself and play fair and work hard and, you know, be a good person and put the work in, so that um if you know, if you want respect, you have to earn it, basically. And if you want friends, you have to be a nice person. And, you know, everything you attain in life is something that you've worked for. um and I think it was a great little um development and a great part to put into Karen's character. Because in school when I was younger, I definitely, you know, I was I developed my confidence. I learned to be outspoken, and then I learned to be like this funny, haha, class clown. Um, as a way of sort of making friends, I thought I'll be funny. Um, and I really didn't like myself at all, really, when I was in those younger years of secondary school. Um, but I remember my behaviour got quite bad in like year 9, 10, because I really was like trying to overdo this like um haha funny um persona as like a complete defense mechanism. um but a teacher sat me my one of my English teachers, who I hated at the time, but by the time I left school I absolutely adored her, and looking back, she was such an important figure in my life. Sorry, I'm out of breath because the camera just fell and I had to put it up. um but yeah, she was such an important person in my life. But she basically, in year 10, she sat me down and she said, "Tiela, you're too smart to waste it like this. Like, please don't do it." She was like, "I can see you're like trying to be funny and your education is suffering, and just don't do it to yourself. She's like, you've got so much potential. You're so smart." Because I remember this one lesson she gave us all like a worksheet to fill out. I spent basically the whole lesson being a pain in the ass. Um, and then I filled the whole thing out, and she like said, "Atiela, I expected this worksheet to be empty and full of rubbish, but you've put some great things down on here, and look what you can do when you're messing around. Like, imagine you weren't doing that, like how good it could be." Um, and she sort of had the chat with me that Karen Brockman had with her head teacher, and I needed it. Like, I needed someone to say that to me, like, what are you doing? You're being stupid. And because I've always wanted to be smart, and I valued that. as I've said, like I've learned from Matilda. Um, but it did get lost along the way, trying to figure out who you are in secondary school. And it also just makes you think like you're always trying to really like figure out what you can control your personality a bit. Like if you don't like who you are in certain moments, you don't like actions that you're doing, like change them, make yourself someone that you love and you would want to be around. And I did that. I took that on board, and I really did try and make that change. And um I did definitely learn how to mold my outspokenness and my opinionated self to be for it to be a positive thing, and not toy with that line of like overly confident or too loud and a bit overbearing. And I hope so anyway. um, but yeah, then through uni, sorry, the birds are so loud in the background. But yeah, then like in uni, I definitely learned, uni teaches you how to research and have gain this knowledge that backs up your arguments, and how to structure an argument, and how to consider other people's opinions and take them on board and form your own new opinion. And that's why I love talking to people so much, because I love hearing loads of different opinions and forcing that to open my mind and uh make me question myself. And Karen Brockman again was a character that questioned everything, and I love to ask questions. My boyfriend probably gets annoyed at how many questions I ask, and I question him about everything, but it's because I want to know, I really want to understand something. Um, and yeah, I think Karen was a great character to have in British television, and is a great character for young girls, I think, to look at, whether she inspired slightly shy people to come out of their shell a bit, or to inspire us already outspoken gals to harness it, um, but use it in a positive way. I think it's really important. But yeah, I just wanted to say as well, like from reflecting on all of these points of development through television characters, you can really see how important the representations of characters are that we put out in the media, and that television puts out and creates. Because uh it, fictional characters really can stand as such points of self-reflection, because they're not real, so you can be quite objective, and you can really judge this character, and not judge in a negative way, but judge in the terms of like pick apart these characters. And where it's fictional, you see parts of their life that you wouldn't see in a normal a person's life. It's like a behind the scenes of these fictional characters' life all the time, and you see them on their own, and you see what makes them tick, and you can really understand them and why they are the way they are, and maybe in that you can see why you are the way you are. And I think picking out these fictional characters is a really cool tool of self-reflection. And I've definitely learned in my life through these characters, and um been inspired by these characters, and been inspired to be confident and opinionated and outspoken. But definitely now I've learnt the importance of um like that quiet confidence. I'll say that term again. um but I've learnt the value in that, and I don't feel the need to be the loudest person in the room anymore, um which is quite nice. As I've grown up, I'm still me, but I I think that confidence has actually harnessed the loudness a tiny bit. With my friends, I'm still the loudest person, but I think in like professional situations, I've learned how the value on being a little bit more reserved. And um it's great, like even like that skill is so important, like working in teams, like everyone needs to. And I have always um worked well in a team, because I like people and I've worked well with people, but my teamwork has definitely improved since I've learnt to be a bit more reserved, and not overbearing. And I think it's always important to reflect on your behaviors, and how other people might perceive you. Not that you should change yourself because of how other people perceive you, but you know, if it's for positive change, I think it's important to be honest with yourself and highlight things that are good and not slightly not so good about your personality and your behavior, and you know, see how you can change them. So anyway, I'm going to ramble on now. I'm going to stop rambling on now. Sorry. I hope you all have a lovely, lovely week. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Make sure to give us a 5-star review if you're listening on podcast apps. And make sure to check out our socials, The Chatty Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. The tea of the week this week is peppermint tea. My favourite, short and simple and yummy. And yeah. I'll see you all next week. Love you all. Bye.